Hello everyone! Today I'm going to talk about the SJCAM SJ8 Dual Screen camera, which I recently bought to replace my old SJCAM SJ8 PRO. So I bought this camera, I thought I make some comparisons, make some tests, and if it is better, then I replace my old SJCAM SJ8 PRO with this new one. Actually, I did not replace it, and in this video I'm going to tell you why. What were my expectations? If I compare the specifications of the two cameras, the only difference I saw was that the dual screen version cannot record 4K 60 FPS videos. And I thought maybe the dual screen consumes more energy, so that's why this feature has been disabled with the dual screen version. But what I was expecting, that basically the dual screen version is SJCAM SJ8 PRO, but with the dual screen. So actually I was wrong. It has much more differences than what you can see on the website. What are the physical differences between the two cameras? The two cameras are really similar in size, only there are very few differences between the two. So if you can see, there's a bump on the front of the camera on the dual screen version, so the screen is just a little bit higher than the rest of the camera body. On the SJCAM SJ8 PRO, the front of the camera is completely flat. The other difference is the size of the lens. As you can see, the dual screen version has bigger glass element, and the diameter of the front lens is just a little bit wider on the dual screen version, so its lens cover is a little bit loose on the SJ8 PRO. The other difference is that the height of the front lens is lower on the dual screen version, and the SJ8 PRO has a bigger bump. The top of the lens on the SJ8 PRO is higher than the lens protector cover around the glass element, so you have to be careful when you place the camera facing down on a surface. Apart from those differences, the two cameras have the same size, and the underwater case is compatible with both of them. Features and settings I use. In this part of the video, I'm going to talk about the features and settings I use with my camera. So with the SJCAM SJ8 PRO, I use the wide angle settings. I record the videos in Full HD. I use sometimes 60 FPS, sometimes 30 FPS. I turned on the image stabilization, and I use the fisheye feature. So those were the expectations that I can use in my dual screen camera, dual screen version of the camera, but actually I was wrong. So the first problem was when I turned on the 60 FPS Full HD settings, then there was no image stabilization. What is my problems with the SJCAM SJ8 Dual Screen? In this part of the video, I'm going to talk about why I keep the SJCAM SJ8 PRO, and I will not keep the dual screen version. My main problem was the wide angle view, which if I turn on the Full HD video resolution with 30 or 60 FPS, the angle of view is much smaller than with higher resolutions. And also it is much smaller than on my SJCAM SJ8 PRO, which is really strange. Also with Full HD 60 FPS, I cannot turn on the image stabilization, while image stabilization is present with the Full HD 30 FPS, but also the angle of view is still not as wide as the SJCAM SJ8 PRO. There were other problems with the camera. Mainly it is much slower than the SJCAM SJ8 PRO, so sometimes when I click on the record button to stop the recording, it takes 3, 4, 5 seconds to actually update the screen and stop the recording. And also when I was view the videos back on the camera, most of the time the camera just freezes, and I have to remove the battery to restart it. While those problems are present in the camera, I could live with them, because I think in the future further updates it will be solved, but the main problem was the image stabilization and wide angle features of the camera. So because of those problems, I will not keep the dual screen. Let's continue with the test, so you can see the differences between the two cameras. Let's compare the cameras side by side. First I'm going to test the angle of view of the cameras. Let's start with the photos taken with the two action cameras. This is the photo taken with the SJ8 PRO version with distortion correction turned off. And this is the photo from the dual screen version. As you can see, there is more crop with the dual screen version of the camera. This is a picture-in-picture comparison image of the two cameras' angle of view. The red square is the angle of view of the dual screen camera, which is much smaller than the SJ8 Pro. Let's continue in video mode. First, let's see the widest angles of the two cameras. This is the video from the SJ8 Pro. Both distortion correction and image stabilization is turned off. Keep in mind that the angle of view doesn't change with different video resolutions in the SJ8 Pro camera. Now let's see the angle of view of the dual screen version. This is the angle of view of the dual screen version of the camera in 4K, 2K and 1296p video resolutions. Here is the angle of view in picture-in-picture. As you can see, there is a significant crop in the dual screen camera. Let's continue to see how the angle of view changes if I choose Full HD resolution in the dual screen camera. So this is how the SJ8 Pro video looks like in every resolution. And this is the view of the dual screen camera in Full HD and 720p resolutions. Let's see the comparison in picture-in-picture mode. As you can see, there is a significant crop in Full HD and 720p with the dual screen camera. Next, let's see the crop in 720p 120 fps. This is the view of the SJ8 Pro, and this is the view of the dual screen camera in 720p 120 fps. Let's compare them in picture-in-picture mode. The crop is even more significant than in Full HD mode. Next, let's see the angles of view on one photo. The image stabilization and the distortion correction were turned off. And in this photo you can see the angle of views when the distortion correction turned on and the image stabilization turned off. And finally, let's see the angle of view when both the distortion correction and the image stabilization are turned on. Here is a spreadsheet where you can see the angle of views of the cameras expressed in the focal length of full-frame lenses. And now let's continue the test with the image stabilization. I mounted the cameras side by side on a hand holder and the image stabilization is turned on both of the cameras. Currently I'm just walking and holding the hand tripod where the cameras are mounted. What noticeable in the first place is that the dual screen camera has a much narrower view than the SJ8 Pro. The other noticeable thing is that the image stabilization works much better on the original SJ8 Pro camera. Let's see the stabilization with the SJ8 Pro zoomed in to match the angle of view of the dual screen camera. If you zoom in, that exaggerates the movement of the image, so it is fair to do a comparison where the angle of views of the two cameras are matched. Even with zoomed in, the SJCAM SJ8 has a much better image stabilization. Let's continue the stabilization test with running with the two cameras. The setup is the same, the cameras are mounted side by side on a handheld tripod, and I run looking around with the cameras. The results of the test are the same, the image of the dual screen version is heavily cropped and the stabilization is working much better on the SJ8 Pro. Here is the cropped version of the SJ8 Pro video where the angle of views are the same. The dual screen version is very shaky compared to the SJ8 Pro. The SJ8 Pro is not perfect, but it is much smoother than without image stabilization. The best results would be to use the camera on a gimbal with the built-in image stabilization. And next, let's continue with the color and image quality test. Let's continue with the image quality test. The colors are quite similar, only the dual screen camera has slightly warmer colors. The biggest difference is the exposure. Sometimes the SJ8 Pro overexposes the image, so in the shadows you can see the details better, but the sky has much less details. For me, the differences in the image quality and colors are negligible. Summary. Actually, the SJCAM SJ8 Dual Screen was a disappointment for me. What I was expecting is an SJCAM SJ8 Pro with the color front screen, but actually with the Dual Screen version, lots of video modes are missing. Also, I really miss the wide angle view and the image stabilization with Full HD 60 fps. So, because of those, I will not choose this camera. I will keep using the SJCAM SJ8 Pro. Now maybe in the future I'm going to buy the SG10 Dual Screen and I will make a comparison of my SJCAM SJ8 Pro and I will see if it works to keep it. Thank you very much for watching my video. If you find it useful, then like this video, subscribe to my channel, and if you have anything to add to this video, then put it in the comment section below. So, see you next time in my other videos.